What's up guys, welcome back to Let's Play Sengoku Basara! So now we're moving on to the final character we're playing as for Basara 1, the Devil King of the 6th Heaven, Oda Nobunaga! So, we are surrounded by heavyweights already in this map. We're starting out in Owari, as appropriate as that is, and thankfully we have a couple of allies around us, the Maeda. So we already have 3 territories we already have under our control, which is pretty nice. As we do with Nohime, it's the same exact map setup. Although I'll be deliberately choosing some different opponents so we didn't get to fight as Nohime. Obviously, I'll still be taking out the big weights, but I hope that I get to fight Kenshin and Takeda as well and take them out. That would be nice. So Nobunaga, as you guys should know who Oda Nobunaga is, even if you're not that familiar with the Sengoku period, not familiar with this game, not familiar with the anime. You should know who this guy is, because not only is he one of the most prolific figures of the Sengoku era in real Japanese history, but he is also one of the go-to villains for pretty much all, like, samurai shows and movies and games, pretty much all, like, Japanese historical fiction. He is just the go-to bad guy. It's like, let's throw Nobunaga in there because let's just do it. So he's in this series. He's in the Onimusha games. He's in several anime, including Inuyasha briefly, and he's in several more obscure ones. I think he's briefly mentioned in Ninja Scroll. Yeah, it's crazy. So, but by far, I think his coolest representation has got to be in Basara, because his design is so freaking cool. And they really went over the top with the whole villain identity, because everybody paints Nobunaga as the typical go-to bad guy. And, you know, that's really not the case. He was actually the first. I mean, he might have done some atrocious things for all we know, but he was the person who first initiated the unification of Japan back in the day, so he was trying to end the conflict. He wasn't trying to, he wasn't literally the devil like everybody makes him out to be in the fiction. But anyway, as far as the game goes, like I said, he has an incredible design, some crazy spikish armor. He definitely looks like a devil. He carries this crazy demon sword, and he carries a double-barrel shotgun in his other hand. So obviously we approve of him already, just from that alone. He's got a boomstick. And that's one of our secondary attacks, is to be able to use that against our enemies. And the other one is to be able to swing our cape around, which does tremendous damage. And knocks enemies back as well, so that's pretty useful. The shotgun blast can actually be comboed into our normal melee swings with our sword. The thing about his melee combat, though, and there's a hilarious blooper for one of my test runs. If you guys want to see it, I'll try to demonstrate it. But the way that his first swing is a downward swing like that to the ground with his sword is really inconvenient, because of the fact that it leaves you wide open for attacks. So you've got to be careful when you first start comboing with him, or you can just get completely savaged by enemies on ultimate difficulty like we're playing on. So that's what happened to me, and I'll show it off if you guys really want to see it. But yeah, it's terrible. So I have pretty bad luck with Nobunaga. There's a lot of people think he's one of the most powerful characters, for obvious reasons. And a lot of people think that he's one of the easier characters to play as. His weapon that I have equipped right now is his elemental weapon. It is Darkness Elemental, and the thing about it is it actually slowly drains your health, but it replenishes your health as you kill enemies. So I have to keep pretty much in constant combat to keep this thing from sucking my soul. So I'm going to be constantly using, like, just spamming my Basara attack as soon as I get it fully charged, just so I can plow through a wave of enemies to replenish my health. It's, you know, not necessarily because it's the most effective strategy, even though it is, but because I really need to get my health back and keep a constant flow of things. And luckily his Basara attack has a huge radius, deals a ton of damage, and quite frankly just lasts forever. So he's a pretty OP character for the most part, but you'll find an ultimate difficulty, and if you have this weapon equipped to him, then it does make things a lot harder. And you do have to be careful. There's no luck involved. You just kind of have to have some practice with him, which I didn't really play as him a whole lot. I didn't even play as him really that much in Devil Kings. And speaking of which, that's a very big point of contention when it comes to Nobunaga. Is I've already complained enough in the comparison video between this game and the American Devil Kings game, the Americanized version of Basara. But Nobunaga in that one was simply called Devil King, which I suppose is fine. But they named the game after him and kind of made it to where he's the protagonist. Almost so to where people kind of thought that he was... They sort of marketed the game where he was the protagonist, like he's somebody like Dante, which is kind of misleading. In fact, it's extremely misleading. He's not Dante. Just because the game has the word devil in it, was made by Capcom and directed by the same person that directed Devil May Cry, does not make him Dante. So, yeah. Even though it's a hack-and-slash game, doesn't mean he's not based off a real historical person who's not Dante. So, yeah. That was definitely interesting. Like, if there was even some GameFAQs walkthroughs that I read on Devil Kings back in the day, and I'm reading this guy describing the character that is Nobunaga in that game, or Devil King as he's referred to, as being the protagonist of the game and being like Dante, and I'm just like, what is this? What am I reading? So, yeah, we know better now that we have access to you know, Japanese websites and imported games and the anime and common sense. But anyway, so the map we're on right now, I know I haven't really touched on it because I've kind of been just talking exposition because this is not the most interesting map. We've fought this map as Oichi. It's not really a great map. This is Imagawa's map, which actually I went here first for a particular reason, because if you've seen the anime, you know that Imagawa was being... I've already mentioned this in the previous fight with him, but he was essentially just running away from... He was just in his convoy, and he got ambushed by Masamune, who was chasing after him like a rabid dog trying to chase after a deer with a broken leg. He was absolutely savage about it, only to find out that all that fighting with Takeda and Masamune just sort of led Imagawa into a trap, where he was cornered by Nobunaga and his followers, Mori Ranmaru, Nohime, and Akashi Mitsuhide, and Nobunaga proceeded to shotgun him in the head and kill him. So he was killed instantly at the end of the first episode, in that case, or second episode, I guess, in the case of Basara, the anime. So he's never seen again in the anime. He's actually not the only character to be killed off in the first season, and some of the characters in Basara 1 are actually basically killed off screen, but at least it acknowledges them. It doesn't straight up write them out of the story. The anime pretty much includes every character in one form or another. Some of the Basara 3 characters are not included in the Project IG, or Production IG, rather, continuity of the storyline in the movie, but they do appear in Judge End, which is not the same continuity. But we'll get to that when we get to Basara 3. I have feelings about that show, and they're not good ones. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. So we're already coming up to the fight here with Imagawa, and again, we actually fight him properly in the game as opposed to in the anime where he just gets hopelessly shot in the head. He's definitely the most incompetent daimyo in all, or general in all of the anime, that's for sure. So, as we saw with the Nohime fight against him, he has a lot of backups. We're going to try to deal with that as best we can here and use our Basara attack to get rid of these hordes of enemies, replenish our health, and charge up our Basara attack some more for when we have to use it against the guy himself. And thankfully we do have that shotgun we can hit him at range with. There's not really a whole lot he can do to block that either. It's pretty unfair. Very similar to how just shooting him in the face as Nohime was very unfair. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if this is historically accurate or not. This is like 1534, I think. When, oh no, that was when Nobunaga was born. So it's it's like the mid 1500s when this is taking place, let's just say. So I'm not really 100% sure that they would. I mean, I know they don't have access to weapons like a double-barrel shotgun that is like the ones we'd have in the Old West. We don't have access to that. We definitely don't have access to a Sengoku-era minigun like freaking Nohime has. But they could have had access to certain muzzleloader rifles and that kind of thing. And if they did, they would have had an extreme advantage. That's one thing I guess I should do my research on when it comes to the Sengoku era, is whether or not the Oda faction had firearms, because if they did, that's probably what allowed them to conquer a third of Japan in the time of Nobunaga's rule. Nobunaga was succeeded by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Toyotomi Hideyoshi was actually the first person to truly conquer Japan in that case. So, as influential as Nobunaga is, he unfortunately died before he could actually take over the country. And maybe that's a good thing. I'm not even sure, this might be my favorite iteration of Nobunaga in fiction, but I'm not even sure that he's the cheesiest, because if you guys have played Onimusha 2, there's some hilarious dialogue in that game with Nobunaga. I need to get that game again. I need to get the whole Onimusha series if I can find it. Oh, speaking of, obviously speaking of the Warriors games and Onimusha and all that, I actually just realized that because I now have an Xbox One, I can get the latest, I think it's Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires is the newest one that's on Xbox One. I can get that now, too. Yeah, your archers don't really stand much of a chance against a double-barrel shotgun that's powered by darkness. But again, I'm trying to get rid of these guys that call in for reinforcements. As per usual, you guys know the drill by now. I said this right at the beginning of the Let's Play about the Basara attack, how one of the factors that is tuned up significantly for the difficulty spike for ultimate difficulty is the fact that enemies are more likely to dodge your Basara attack. So, because of, and this is similar to Yukimura's as well, to where because of the amount of hits in the combo, and I guess that's also true with Masamune's as well, that you will still have a fairly decent chance of hitting the enemy a few times, but he'll probably dodge most hits from the combo, and thankfully we have this enormous spread with Nobunaga, so we should be pretty well set for that. Yeah, not much he can do about being shot in the face. See, this is where things get really tricky, because I'm losing health faster than I can regenerate. So, I think I'm actually losing health every time I attack an enemy, but I have to actually kill the enemy in order to regain the health, because if I'm just standing stationary or walking, I'm not fighting anything, I seem to be fine. Thankfully, there's one last cluster of enemies here. They can replenish my health pretty easily. You could say that's an advantage to this weapon, but at the same time, I really shouldn't have to worry about losing so much health anyway, especially when I'm trying to attack a boss who is going to take a lot of hits before I can actually defeat them, so having my health drained every time I hit the boss is very counterproductive. But I'll be switching out of this weapon whenever I get a better one, of course. The one thing I absolutely love about this sword, though, is the sound effect that it makes. It's awesome. And the first time I unlocked it was during the final battle of Nobunaga's campaign, which you guys will be seeing eventually at the end of the Let's Play. And I gotta say, it was very appropriate for what we were fighting. You'll see what I mean by that if you don't already know. So maybe clearing out all of his support isn't such a great idea after all. I mean, we are able to regain our Basara meter and our health just by grinding on the nearby enemies. He's down to about half health now. Honestly, this boss is pretty tedious compared to some of the others, which, again, he should have been dead in one shot had we had our way, but he's not really that dangerous as far as his attacks go. He's just tedious to fight. Fan is certainly going to do a whole lot against our giant sword, shotgun, and armor. I'm trying to remember if it was raining during the scene where Nobunaga is introduced in the anime. I think it was. Man, Nobunaga certainly had the coolest villain introduction in all of anime, for his time at least. It was only topped by the introduction of Hideyoshi in Season 2. But just the music, the atmosphere, you can't beat that. Well, thankfully my Basara attack hitting him does not appear to be draining my health any, so I definitely appreciate that. I think I'm going to allow this guy to call in another squad here so I can replenish my health. Because if I got rid of him and I didn't have the means to attack more enemies, I probably would have been screwed. So being outnumbered is actually kind of to my advantage here. And there's a famous quote, I don't know if this is a quote from the games or an actual quote from the real person himself, but it's, no one stands before me, no one stands behind me. I'm thinking, though, that this campaign will be pretty short. I think I should be able to get through this in just a couple of fights. But again, I really want to take out all the heavyweights. I really want the opportunity to fight. If I could, I'd like to be able to fight Shimatsu again. I'd like to be able to fight Uesigi Kenshin. I'd like to be able to fight Takeda. And with Takeda, hopefully I'll be able to do a new map that I've not been able to demonstrate yet. So every single map in this game will be shown off at least once. And there's a couple of situational battles, or at least one situational battle that you can only fight as Nobunaga. And I'll be happy to show that off when we get to it. And then at least we'll feel confident we've covered all the bases with the first game. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but the last con I was at, I actually managed to secure a copy of the original PS2 version of Basara 1, the Japanese version. So now I have that in addition to the American Devil Kings and the HD version. So that was nice to have. I don't know if I'll get the original versions of every game on the HD collection. There's not really much of a point. But it would be nice for collectability's sake. I do have Basara X Cross as well, if I haven't mentioned that. And that one has not been ported or remastered or anything like that. It's a fighting game. Alright, he's pretty low on health, but I really want to fill up my Basara gauge here before I try to finish him off. Yeah, like I said, this is long and tedious, but at least I'm having good luck as Nobunaga, and as I said before, once I get a better weapon for him, I will not have to worry about this as much. We will shoot you until you die. As we do with everything else. There we go. Finally! Stay down. Love how he just one-hands that huge freaking shotgun too.